My name is Eileen Nicole, and we are going live here today. Wanted to talk about this new development here. I've been following the news and, just following everything that has been going on the past couple of days with Donald Trump and Elon Musk and Hegseth and just the whole cabinet was, President Trump's cabinet. I've been going, just watching what's going on here. And I just wanted to go over, just wanted to do um, we're going to watch this presidential press conference that happened earlier today. And really, it was Elon Musk that did the press conference, and Trump was just sitting there. But it just makes Trump look so weak. He's so weak. It's not even funny. He's just like a puppet there. Elon Musk paid for the presidency, and it seems like he got his money's worth. And he got his hands on the American public's purse. And he alone, because I know that Trump he's not doing I don't believe them. I don't believe a word that comes out of their mouths. But President Trump is sitting in the chair, but really it's President Musk. He's the president of the shadow president, right in our face. So I don't know if it's really a shadow, but we're going to go over the press conference. But I don't believe anything that they say. And Elon Musk has gotten a full, he has full access to all of our information. And I don't trust him. I know on Twitter he's talking about he's 1,000 more times more trustworthy. I don't know you. I don't know you, and you haven't even gone through the process that it normally would take for you to even be in that position. So I don't trust you, and I don't trust this administration as far as I can throw them. But let's get into this here. This is the, let me see. This is it. And let's go.
And also, could you mention some of the things that your team has found, some of the crazy numbers, including the woman that walked away with about 30 million,
right,
etc.?
Well, we do find it sort of rather odd that there are quite a few people in the bureaucracy who have ostensibly a salary of a few $100,000, but somehow manage to accrue tens of millions of dollars in net worth while they are in that position, which is, what happened to USAID. We're just curious as to where it came from. Maybe they're very good at investing.
What's so interesting is he's talking about what people have acquired, and he acquired billions of dollars after buying the presidency. So this is the pot calling the kettle black. There's no way that you can't sit here Humpty Dumpty and start trying to tell people this is not your job. I'm so over it already. But President Trump, he just looks like a weak madman here. But let's go over the rest of the conference.
In which case we should take their investment advice, perhaps. But just there seems to be mysteriously they get wealthy. We don't know why. Where does it come from? And I think the reality is that they're getting wealthy at taxpayer expense. That's the honest truth of it. So we're looking at just if you look at say Treasury, for example.
This to me is so awkward that he's standing here. How come the whole thing is so awkward. All of it. The child, which the child is cute, okay? But I think that he's nervous. This is why he brought his child. But Trump is just sitting there looking stupid. And then Elon Musk can barely string two words together. So this whole thing is just so awkward. And he's talking about doing a job that he shouldn't even be doing. I'm like, why are we having this discussion? I don't understand why we're even having this discussion. What the discussion that we should be having is him getting arrested, or him going before Congress and answering for why is he doing this job, and he really isn't authorized to do it. He couldn't even pass a security clearance. He wasn't voted in, Paula. He was not voted in. Thank you for joining us, by the way. But he was not voted in, and not only that, he couldn't even pass the security clearance. Okay, so you know how the young child, the teenager, the young boy that's on his team, he got fired for those posts on X marks the shit show. So normally when you go through security clearances like that, they look for extremist situations and extreme people, and you won't get cleared. He has people that would never normally get cleared close to the most sensitive information in all of America. This is wild. And he just standing there nonchalantly talking about it. And everybody's acting like this isn't weird. Here's the thing. We can't normalize this. We, the public, cannot make sure, we have to make sure we don't normalize looking at this as if this is no big deal. This is a big deal. He shouldn't be sitting there in this office talking to us about a job he shouldn't even be doing. But let's listen to the rest of the press conference, because it is important that we hear what they're saying.
Basic controls that should be in place, that are in place in any company, such as making sure that any given payment has a payment categorization code, that there is a comment field that describes the payment, and that if a payment is on the do not pay list, that you don't actually pay it. None of those things are true currently. So the reason that departments can't pass audits is because the payments don't have a categorization code. It's like just a massive number of blank checks just flying out the building. So you can't reconcile blank checks. You've got comment fields that are also blank, so you don't know why the payment was made. And then we've got this truly absurd, a do not pay list, which can take up to a year for an organization to get on a do not pay list. And this, we're talking about terrorist organizations, we're talking about known fraudsters, known aspects of waste, known things that do not match any congressional appropriation. It can take up to a year to get on the list, and even once on the list is not used. It's mind-blowing.
No, what's mind-blowing is that you're even in that space to even look at this sensitive information. That is just to me, it's like a slap in the face of every single American here. This man is an African, and mind you, Donald Trump just said, oh, well, all these Afrikaners can come to America if they want to, but all the other immigrants and migrants have to leave, which is ass backwards. Anyways, they said that he said that he's going through all these things. You shouldn't even be there. He had the nerve to say that he can be trusted 1,000%. No, I don't know you, and I don't trust you. I don't trust him at all, and I definitely don't trust this orange man. Oh my gosh.
What we're talking about here, we're really just talking about adding common sense controls that should be present, that haven't been present. So you say, like, well, how could such a thing arise? That seems crazy. When you understand that really everything is geared
well,
towards
you can go, you can leave.
minimization.
You don't have to be here.
So then you understand the motivations. So if people receive money, they don't complain, obviously. But if people don't receive money, they do complain. And the fraudsters complain the loudest and the fastest. So then when you understand that, then it makes sense. Oh, that's why everything they approve all the payments at Treasury. Because if you approve all the payments, you don't get complaints. But now we're saying that no, actually we are going to complain. If money is spent badly, if your taxpayer dollars are not spent in a sensible and frugal manner, then that's not okay. Your tax dollars need to be spent. Why is that? Like, it's just common sense. It's not draconian or radical. I think it's really just saying, let's look at each of these expenditures and say, is this actually in the best interest of the people? And if it is, it's approved. If it's not, we should think about it. So, there's crazy things like just cursory examination of Social Security, and we've got people in there that are 150 years old. Now, do you know anyone who's 150? I don't. Okay. They should be on the Guinness Book of World Records. They're missing out. So, that's a case where, like, I think they're probably dead. It's my guess. Or they should be very famous, one of the two. And then there's a whole bunch of Social Security payments where there's no identifying information. Well, like, why is there no identifying information? Obviously, we want to make sure that people who deserve to receive Social Security do receive it.
And that's just it. You don't get to decide who deserves Social Security or not. That's not your job. That's not what you're supposed to be here doing. You've siphoned all kinds of money. None of the stuff that Elon Musk makes, his cars, his jets, his rocket ships, none of them are safe. His rocket ships blow up in the middle of the air, and everybody has to pay for that to pick up and clean up that debris, including Americans. His cars are always blowing up. His trucks are always running, with that full self-driving crap. It's always running into something, blowing up somebody. Somebody's always talking about how they almost died in one of his cars. His companies are he overpaid for Twitter. His companies were going bankrupt for so many different times. It's so wild that he thinks that he's failed. But the only reason why he's here and where he's at is because he's got rich people around him. That doesn't make you smart. Him and Donald Trump both have had businesses fail over and over and over and over again and have been propped up by rich people that they are around. That's not the case for normal people. But this man thinks that he's failed so many times, but he gets to sit here and tell you how you should be living your life and who should be deserving of what he thinks is funds. He's controlling the funds as if I wouldn't be shocked if he was funneling funds to his own personal accounts or his friends' accounts or authorizing things that he shouldn't be authorizing. I would not be shocked if later we find this out. So apparently on the website, it's saying that these files that he's coming, that all this information, this fake investigation that they're doing, those files are going to be classified until 2032. This is on their website. So we're not going to be able to hear about this for a long time. But let's continue.
And that they receive it quickly and accurately. Also, another crazy thing. So, one of the things is, like, we are trying to sort of right-size the federal bureaucracy, just make sure that this, obviously there need to be a lot of people working for the federal government, but not as many as currently. So we're saying, if people can retire, with full benefits and everything, that would be good. They can retire, get their retirement payments, everything. And then we were told, this is actually, I think, a great anecdote, because we were told the most number of people that could retire possibly in a month is 10,000. We're like, well, why is that? Well, because all the retirement paperwork is manual on paper. It's manually calculated.
No, he's doing with you.
Then it goes
he's
down
not
the
doing
line.
what America
Now,
voted for. He's doing what
there's a line
some people
line,
voted for.
But we store all the retirement paperwork. And you look at a picture of this mine. We'll post some pictures afterwards. And this mine looks like something out of the 50s because it was started in 1955. So it looks like it's like a time warp. And then the speed, the limiting factor is the speed at which the mine shaft elevator can move determines how many people can retire from the federal government. And the elevator breaks down sometimes, and then nobody can retire. Doesn't that sound crazy? There's like 1,000 people that work on this. So I think if we take those people and say, like, you know what, instead of working in a mine shaft and carrying manila envelopes to,
I would not vote for, you said you live in Boston, they put a stop to it, to the federal freeze? What did they put a stop to, Paula? So would you vote for him for a third term? Absolutely not. I would vehemently fight against it. Fight against him having a third term. You said that he violated Maria. He got convicted of so many crimes right before the right before he was won their election. He was voted for. He was convicted of so many crimes. Um, it says Joel. He didn't campaign on closing these agencies. You don't have to shut them down to investigate them. I think that there should be like checks and balances, obviously, but he fired everybody. He could have just gave people directives to find things instead of putting this idiot in place to find things. He can't even run his own companies. Why would you put him in charge of running a whole economic system that he has no idea how it works? He don't even know how his own companies work. Yeah, it's a Trump nothing for me. He really needs to get impeached, and also he needs to be removed from office. So let's continue here.
With boxes in a mine shaft, you could do practically anything else, and you would add to the goods and services of the United States in a more useful way. So, anyway.
He said the judges
that's an example.
put a postpone on it. They're not letting it go through. They're taking their time before they make a decision. Yeah, they did do that, Paula. They did put a freeze on it, a temporary freeze, and then they just renewed it. I think I just heard that today. I read an article about them continuing that freeze, but also I read that some of the people that were affected by it, through U.S. aid, filed another petition. They put another petition in because they said that those funds were still being frozen, even though the judge told them to. You know how they said that he had to let them keep working? Well, apparently he didn't unfreeze the funds so that they get paid for working, and so that they can continue doing their duties. And so he had to put another order saying, hey, I know you heard me the first time, but and if you don't listen to this next order, there's going to be some consequences. And then it says something about criminal contempt. Now, this is to the admin. He can't do nothing to the president, but to the admin that is not listening to the judge. No, he don't. He said he don't care about where people are going to get their next meal from and take care of their children and their bills. No, because, that's not something that he has to worry about himself. That judge can't tell the president what to do. He is not having... Yes, he does. That's the point of the judicial branch. The federal judicial branch? What are you talking about? Do you know how the three branches of government work? They all have to work in conjunction with one another. It's called the checks and balances. You can't just do whatever you want just because you're the president. You have limited power, just like the judicial branch has limited power, and just like Congress has limited power. Everybody has limited power, and together they make strong decisions. But the judge certainly can strike down something that the president has, because that's the power that they have. And Congress has that power too if they vote against certain things that he's doing. Okay, let's finish.
At a high level, if you say, how do we increase prosperity, is we get people to shift from roles that are low to negative productivity to high productivity roles. And so you increase the total output of goods and services, which means that there's a higher standard of living available for everyone. That's the actual goal. Everyone's very quiet. So people normally is quiet?
Your detractors, Mr. Musk.
I have to what?
Including a lot of Democrats.
I have detractors?
You do, sir.
I don't believe it.
Say that you're orchestrating a...
He said it's just one judge. All it takes is one. Listen, when the attorney generals from different states here in the United States I think there were 22 different attorney generals, which is the main, basically, attorney for that state. They brought these complaints to the judge, and then the judge made a ruling on it.
What's your response to that criticism?
Well, first of all, you couldn't ask for a stronger
Listen, you
mandate.
said we should have a system that verify payments. We should know where the money is being spent. I mean, I think that's an obvious observation. The even more glaring observation is that this man has no authority to be doing what he's doing. I don't understand how you're excusing one crime so that you can point out a potential other crime that you don't know has been committed or not been committed. Because I don't believe anything that this man is saying. I don't believe him. He's a liar.
From the public. The public voted, we have a majority of the public voting for President Trump. We won the House, we won the Senate.
He do need to get deported. He needs to be. But here's the thing. Is that responsible? Because I think he should be dealt with here, right in the States, and go to one of them prisons Donald Trump talking about sending Americans to.
Major government reform. And that's what people are going to get. They're going to get what they voted for.
No, I don't believe he's better than Biden or Harris. Even though I disagreed with some of the stuff they was doing, they wasn't doing this.
And that's what democracy is all about.
They was not doing this.
If you're thinking of selling your house, want to know how much more you could be getting by using this brand new way to sell? The real estate market is rapidly
Elon scares
shifting,
you more
so
than
if you're-
Trump. Don't let him scare you. Yeah, listen, Elon is a weakling just like Trump. That's why they're doing it together.
The White House says
There is nothing to be scared of about no Elon. This will come to an end. We'll need to fight. We'll need to fight against it. Look, we can't just stand still, but being scared, that is not going to get us where we need to be. But these two are two weaklings. This is why they're together. And this is why he has his son, because he's nervous. He's scared. Because he knows that the public is calling him out on his bullshit. So there's nothing to be scared of from this person or from this person, even though he has the power of the pen and he has the power of influence and wealth. It does not matter that they are doing this against the American people. If we fight back and respond the way that we're supposed to, back through the legal system, like we need to be making protests through the legal system as well. You know how I told you those attorney generals filed complaints? That's what we're going to have to do as well. Public, you know how they do like class action lawsuits, things like that. Because there's so many of them being filed, it's going to clog up the courts. And some of these things there that we put through, we'll get through as well.
conflicts of interest that you may have. Does that mean that you are in effect policing yourself? What are the checks and balances that are in place to ensure that there is accountability and transparency?
Well, we actually are trying to be as transparent as possible. In fact, we post our actions to the Doge handle on X and to the Doge website. So all of our actions are maximally transparent. In fact, I don't think there's been, I don't know of a case where an organization has been more transparent than the Doge organization. So, you know, and the kind of things we're doing are, I think, very, very simple and basic. They're not, you know, what I mentioned, for example, about Treasury, just making sure that payments that go out, taxpayer money that goes out, is categorized correctly, that the payment is explained, that organizations on the do not pay list, which takes a lot to get there, that actually are not paid, which currently they are paid. These are not individual judgment decisions. These are about simply having sensible checks and balances in the system itself to ensure that taxpayer money is spent well. So it's got nothing to do with, like, say, a contract with some company of mine at all.
But if there is a conflict of interest when it comes to you yourself, for instance, you've received billions of dollars in federal contracts when it comes to the Pentagon, for instance.
Exactly.
Which the president, I know, has directed you to look into.
Yeah.
Are you policing yourself in that? Is there any sort of accountability check and balance in place that would provide any
Trump's sitting there.
people?
Trump's sitting there looking for his next directive on what he should be doing. He ain't the girl. He is not the president. He is not the president.
Well, all of our actions are fully public. So if you see anything, you say like, wait a second, hey, that seems like maybe that's, there's a conflict there. I don't like people are going to be shy about saying that. They'll say it immediately.
Including you yourself.
Yes, but we're transparency.
Yeah, he's not supposed to have access to our personal information. If there was a small group of people that had access to this over years and years in different administrations that went through specific security clearances and were there, doing things as they should be doing them, that's a different thing from what this person is. First of all, douche, whatever it is not an actual agency that was enacted by Congress, or it's not it's just him. It's just Donald Trump saying, it's kind of like an advisory commission, in which he can do, but that doesn't mean that you get to have access to everybody's personal information. And if people agree with this, let him have access to your personal information, but I don't want him having access to my personal information.
Asserting trust. So not somebody saying they're trustworthy, but transparency, so you can see everything that's going on. And then you can see, am I doing something that benefits one of my companies or not? It's totally obvious.
And if we thought that, we would not let him do that segment or look in that area if we thought there was a lack of transparency or a conflict of interest. And we watched that also. He's a big businessman. He's a successful guy. That's why we want him doing this. We don't want an unsuccessful guy doing this. Now, one thing also that Elon hasn't really mentioned are the groups of people that are getting some of these payments. They're ridiculous. And we're talking about billions of dollars that we've already found. We found fraud and abuse. I would say
but they never post this fraud and abuse. They never post the proof.
Fraud and abuse. It's abusive because most of these things are virtually made up, or certainly money shouldn't be sent to them. And you know what I'm talking about. It's crazy. So, but we're talking about tens of billions of dollars that we've already found. And now a judge who's an activist judge wants to try and stop us from doing this. Why? Why would they want to do that? I campaigned on this. I campaigned on the fact that I said government is corrupt. And it is very corrupt. It's very, very, it's also foolish. As an example, a man has a contract for 3 months and the contract ends, but they keep paying him for the next 20 years, because nobody ends a contract. You get a lot of that. You have a contract that's a 3-month contract. Now, normally if you're in a small, in all fairness, it's the size of this thing is so big.
Yeah.
But if you have a contract and you're in a regular business, you end the contract in 3 months, it's a consultant. Here's a contract for 3 months, but it goes on for 20 years. And the guy doesn't say that he got money for 20 years, They don't say it. They just keep getting checks month after month. And you have various things like that, and even much worse than that, actually, much worse. And I guess you call that incompetence.
People will believe anything that somebody say that got a bunch of money. It's a bunch of people that worship money and they worship skin. And because they worship money and because they worship skin, the people with the right skin and the right amount of money can tell them anything. And they will believe it. They will believe it like it was God, like it was Jesus himself, like it was whatever God they worship told them themselves. And there's nothing you can say, nothing you can do to try to stop it or even present any other information that they can look at. But, I'm not here to convince MAGAs not to skin worship. I'm not here to convince MAGAs to be idol worshipers. That's, if that's your choice, if that's what you want to do. But I am here for the people who do not want this piece of filth over our government ruining the democracy that we have.
Yeah, I guess the money he kicks. I think there's a lot of kickback here. I see a lot of kickback here.
There's a lot of kickbacks.
A tremendous kickback, because nobody could be so stupid to give out some of these contracts.
Skin worship. That's
what I got elected for. That and borders and military, and a lot of things, but this is a big part of it. And I hope
Thank you,
that the court
Codell.
system is going to allow us to do what we have to do. We got elected to among other things, find all of this fraud, abuse, all of this horrible stuff going on. And we've already found billions of dollars, not like a little bit, billions, many billions of dollars. And when you get down to it, it's going to be probably close to $1 trillion. It could be close to $1 trillion that we're going to find. That will have quite an impact on the budget. And you'll go to a judge where they handpick a judge, and he has certain leanings. I'm not knocking anybody for that, but he has certain leanings, and he wants us to stop looking. How do you stop looking? I mean, we've already found it. We have a case in New York where a hotel has paid $59 million, $59 million because it's housing migrants, illegal migrants, all illegal, I believe.
And they were being paid twice the normal room rate at 100% occupancy.
Unbelievable.
So it's a racket.
Mr. Musk, I'm going to ask you a question. You
Well,
said,
if I may sort of just going for the president's comments, at a high level, you say, well, what are the two ingredients that are really necessary in order to cut the budget deficit in half from 2 trillion to 1 trillion? And it's really two things: competence and caring. And if you add competence and caring, you'll cut the budget deficit in half. And I fully expect to be scrutinized and get a daily proctology exam, basically. Might as well just camp out there. So it's not like I think I can get away with something. I'll be scrutinized nonstop. But with support of the president, we can cut the budget deficit in half from 2 trillion to 1, and then with deregulation, because there's a lot of sort of regulations that don't ultimately serve the public good. We need to free the builders of America to build. And if we do that, that means I think you get the economic growth to be maybe 3-4%, maybe 5%. And that means if you can get $1 trillion of economic growth and you cut the budget deficit by $1 trillion, between now and next year, there is no inflation. There's no inflation in 26. And if the government is not borrowing as much, it means that interest costs decline. So everyone's the mortgage, their car payment, their credit card bills, anything, their student debt, the monthly payments drop.
Every month,
So
this Airbnb pays me.
So skin worship is when
I don't own it.
people excuse anything somebody does because of the color of their skin. And they worship them, and they think everything that they do is, they put them on this godlike tier.
And the prices from one year to the next are the same, and their mortgage, all their debt payments dropped.
You said the billionaires are putting God first.
We had no idea. We had no idea we were going to find this much, and it's open. It's not like complicated. It's
not that
simple
complicated.
stuff. It's
like
a lot of work.
Yeah.
You can't believe it. A lot of work. A lot of smart people involved. Very, very smart people. But you're talking about anywhere maybe 500 billion. It's crazy the kind of numbers you're talking about. Normally when you're looking at something, you'll find you're looking for 1 out of 100. Here, you're almost reversing it. You look for one that's good.
Yeah.
And you can look at the title, and you say, why are we doing this? Why are we doing that? And the public gets it. The public gets it. You see in the polls. The public is saying, why are we paying all this money? This for years, this has gone on.
Mr. Musk,
President
you
Trump,
said
Yeah, go ahead. Wait, go ahead.
Senator Rand Paul today said that DOJ cuts will ultimately need a vote
No,
of Congress.
I don't think
Do you
so.
agree with that? Is that the
I
plan?
really don't know. I know this. We're finding tremendous fraud and tremendous abuse. If I need a vote of Congress to find fraud and abuse, it's fine with me. I think we'll get the vote, although there'll be some people that wouldn't vote. And how could a judge want to hold us back from finding all of this fraud and finding all of this incompetence? Why would that happen? Why would even Congress want to do that? Now, Congress, if we do need a vote, I think we'd get a very easy vote because we have a track record now. We've already found billions of dollars of abuse, incompetence, and corruption. A lot of corruption.
If a judge does block one of your policies, part of your agenda. Will you abide by that ruling? Will you comply with that?
You know, part of the waste and the abuse is going to Elon Musk and his rocket ships, where we're spending billions of dollars in subsidies every year to this man, and all he's doing is blowing up rockets in the air. What does that do for the American people? What does that do for the American taxpayer? Nothing. It does nothing. So they should be starting there, but that's not where they're starting at all. They're going to continue to give those subsidies, and also that big tax break is coming. It's supposed to be extended. He's going to extend that tax break for the super wealthy.
Appeal it, but then what he's done is he slowed down the momentum, and it gives crooked people more time to cover up the books. You know, if a person's crooked and they get caught, other people see that, and all of a sudden it becomes harder later on. So, yeah, the answer is I always abide by the courts, always abide by them, and will appeal. But appeals take a long time, and I would hope that a judge, if you go into a judge and you show him, here's a corrupt situation, we have a check to be sent, but we found it to be corrupt. Do you want us to send this corrupt check to a person, or do you want us not to give it and give it back to the taxpayer? I would hope a judge would say, don't send it, give it back to the taxpayer.
Yeah, if I can add to that, what we're finding is that a bunch of the fraud is not even going to Americans. So I think we can all agree that if there's going to be fraud, it should at least go to Americans. But a bunch of the fraud rings that are operating in the United States and taking advantage of the federal government, especially in the entitlements programs, are actually foreign fraud rings. They're operating in other countries and actually exporting money to other countries. We should stop that. And this is big.
But these are people that have literally taken over the government. And it's mind-blowing that people are defending this coup. This is a coup in my opinion, because they're trying to make it seem like they're trying to normalize this anarchy. This is January 6th 2.0. That's what this is at the White House right now, and nobody is safe. But the people that agree with them, do what you do. But it's a bunch of people that do not agree with this, and I agree, and I'm with that. I do not agree with what's going on in the White House right now. I don't agree with this president. I don't agree with the way that they're doing things. They should be going through the normal process that we have for our laws. You can't just sit here, start breaking laws, and then talk about other people that you feel are breaking laws because you decided what's legal and what's not legal. You have no authority to say what's legal and what's not legal. Not in this country, not in the White House.
Serious, money.
Mr. Musk, you said on X that an example of the fraud that you have cited was $50 million of condoms was sent to Gaza.
Nobody voted for Musk. And here's the thing: there is a movement, which is to deport Elon Musk and fire Elon Musk. Two movements that we definitely should continue to make our voices heard. I do feel like they are hearing these things, and I think it's important for us to continue to voice our opinions and show up since we do disagree. Because there's so many of them that do agree with this that's going on, that are, banding together. So all of us who don't agree with this mess going on in the White House need to also band together.
Well, first of all, some of the things that I say will be incorrect and should be corrected. So nobody's going to bat 1,000. I mean, we will make mistakes, but we'll act quickly to correct any mistakes. I'm not sure we should be sending $50 million worth of condoms to anywhere, frankly. I'm not sure that's something Americans would be really excited about.
He just the whole Gaza thing, the condoms was a lie. Like I said, I believed it was. I didn't believe him when he said it. It was a lie.
Think about it. If it went to Mozambique instead of Gaza, I'm like, okay, that's not as bad, but still.
We don't know if it was 50 million or not.
Can you talk a little bit about?
We don't even know if it was condoms or not.
Heads, as you're directing these cuts, do they have the how much input do agency heads have when you're making these decisions?
Yeah, we work closely with the agency heads, and yeah, there are sort of checks in place. So it's not just us just going in and doing things willy-nilly. It's in partnership with the agency heads, and I check frequently with the president to make sure that this is what the president wants to have happen. So we talk
It's
almost
very
every day,
strange. This is a very strange press
I double check
conference.
things to make sure, is this something, Mr. President, do you want us to do this?
Yeah,
we'll do it.
I think they do.
USAID has been one of your main targets. Are you concerned at all that some of the cuts or that shutting that agency altogether may lead to diseases or other bigger problems starting in other countries that then come to the United States?
Yeah, so that's an interesting example. So that's something where we work closely with the State Department and Secretary Rubio. And we have, for example, turned on funding.
Trump is
for
one of the most lioness
and-
politicians ever. I think even in his first term, he had told so many lies. It was just absolutely absurd, and he still does it, but he doesn't care because it's all about sensationalism. He doesn't see it as a lie. He sees it as just hyperbole, and he's just going to say this, and it's your job to check it out and see if he's telling you the truth. But he just exaggerates things to the 10th power, to where they're actual lies. But he's one of the most lioness politicians ever.
For HIV prevention.
Left that, you said?
Yes, correct. And we are moving fast, so we will make mistakes, but we also fix the mistakes very quickly. So
Has a worthy cause, USAID?
I think that there are some worthy things, but overall, if you say what was the bang for the buck, I would say it was not very good. And there was far too much of what USAID was doing was influencing elections in ways that I think were dubious and do not stand the light of day.
I'd just ask a follow-up to the Pentagon contracts. If you have received billions of dollars in contracts from the Pentagon, and the president's directing you to look into the Department of Defense, is that a conflict of interest?
Are going to do at the president's request.
Does that present a conflict of interest for you?
No, because you'd have to look at the individual contract and say, first of all, I'm not the one, filing the contract. It's people at SpaceX or someone who will be putting for the contract. And I'd like to say, if you see any contract where
they just randomly put contracts in, and you don't have no say, you don't know nothing. So when the money comes in, you don't have nothing to do with that either. That doesn't sound like you running the company. Don't say it's just somebody. You'd probably have a grant writer or a contract writer, obviously. But if the money comes in, it's not like you don't know that the money is coming in and you spend it the way that it should be spent through your CFO or through your accounting system. That's disingenuous to say that.
And it wasn't by far the best value for money for the taxpayer, let me know, because every one of them was.
Trump is a politician.
You might look at treasuries. Could you explain that a little bit? What kind of fraud, and that question goes to both of you, what kind of fraud are you expecting to see or do you see right now in U.S. treasuries?
Yeah, I think you mean the Treasury Department as opposed to Treasury bills, or...
You also referenced treasuries on Air Force One the other night.
Well, as I mentioned earlier, really, the first order of business is to make sure we're actually collecting... Sorry for this. Although my son might enjoy this, but he's sticking his fingers in my ears and stuff.
I don't know if you've done any research on Donald Trump. Donald Trump has been around politicians and been trained by lawyers and politicians his whole career. He's been around. One of his mentors was an attorney, but he was very closely tied to a politician named Senator McCarthy. But his mentor's name is Roy Cohn, and he died back in 1986. But Roy Cohn worked for a politician, and that's how he got his training. He trained Trump in the ways of politics. So Trump, maybe he doesn't hold no seat, but he knows politics. He's been knowing politics.
It's a bit hard to hear sometimes. Hey, stop that. The stuff we're doing with the Treasury Department is so basic that you can't believe it doesn't exist already. So for example, it's like, what type of payment is this? You can't just leave the field blank. Currently, many payments, the field is left blank. And you have to describe what's the payment for, some basic rationalization. That also is left blank. So this is why, the Pentagon, when's the last time the Pentagon passed an audit? I mean, a decade ago, maybe? Ever? Really? And we want to, just in order to actually pass audits.
Yeah, but he's been the president, so he's a politician. He's been the president before.
So, and once in a while, the Treasury has to pause payments if it thinks the payment is going to a fraudulent organization.
He's a felon. Yeah, he's a felon too.
On that payment.
It's very strange that he got it back in office.
Someone that is just like dead people, terrorists, known fraudsters, that kind of thing. We should not pay them, but currently we do, which is crazy. We should stop that.
Trump is part of the club.
By the way,
Yeah, he is the club.
For the sake of the country, I hope that the person that's in charge and the other people that report to me
Exactly,
that are in charge
Kyle.
are
Now
allowed to do the right thing.
he's
Namely,
definitely one of the
make
boys.
sure everything's honest,
The
legitimate,
grand old
and
party.
competent. But we're looking at just when you look at USAID, that's one. We're going to look at the military. We're going to look at education.
Right.
Much bigger areas.
Darren.
But the USAID is really corrupt. I'll tell you, it's corrupt. It's incompetent and it's really corrupt. And I can't imagine a judge saying, well, it may be corrupt, but you don't have the right. You got elected to look over the country and to, as we say, make America great again, but you don't have the right to go and look and see whether or not things are right that they're paying or that things are honest that they're paying. And nobody can even believe there's other people, law professors, right away. You're supposed to be running the country, but we're not allowed to look at who they're paying it to and what they're paying. We have massive.
Here's the
amounts
thing.
of
Nobody
fraud
said
that
that you
we
don't have the right to look nobody said you didn't have the right to do this. It's just that there is a process for you to do it. And you're circumventing that process because it seems to me that this president is trying to gut the whole Constitution bit by bit, little by little. And from there, you just don't know. Because he's going after the military next. He said the Department of Education. He's trying to, in my opinion, well, I've heard some people on their side say that they want a divorce from the red states, from the blue states. But I think that, in my opinion, I feel that Donald Trump is trying to secede the federal government from the states. I think he's slowly doing it. He's slowly pulling the federal government away from the states so it can be a separate entity. That's my opinion on it, based off of them saying that they wanted a divorce.
I think we probably got way over a lot of billions of dollars already in 2 weeks?
Yes.
And it's going to go to numbers that you're not going to believe. And much, as I said, much is incompetence and much is dishonesty. We have to catch it. And the only way you're going to catch it is to look for it. And if a judge is going to say you're not allowed to look for it, that's
the fringe voted for him. That's the fringe.
So, can you personally guarantee that
Which one?
The buyout program, the offer to federal workers, can you personally guarantee that the workers who opt in to resign now will be paid through
Well,
September?
they'll get their money, but they're getting a good deal. They're getting a big buyout. And what we're trying to do is reduce government. We have too many people. We have.
That's one thing he did lie about. He was like, Project 2025. I don't have nothing to do with Project 2025. And then there's over 100 different organizations that contributed to that document. And he hired some of those people that are now working in his cabinet. So there's that lie right there, that he didn't know anything about Project 2025. And not only that, there are key things in that project, which I showed before, that have already been implemented. And in that document, it talks about, I think it talks about separating from the states. But also Steve Bannon said to manage the basically the fall of the average person, which is so very strange that he actually has supporters that want to be victimized and oppressed. But it's sort of like this sadomasochism kind of thing. They like the pain of it all. It's very weird, very strange. But let's continue here.
4%. Nobody's showing up to work because they were told not to. And then Biden gave them a 5-year pass, some of them, 48,000 of them, gave them a 5-year pass, that for 5 years, you don't have to show up to work. And let me tell you, this is largely, much of this stuff is because of Biden. It's his fault. He allowed this country, what he did on our border. What he did on our border is almost not as bad as what he did with all of these contracts that have come out. It's a very sad day when we look at it. I can't even believe it. But many contracts just extend and they just keep extending, and there was nobody there to correct it. And that cannot be, I can't imagine that could be held up by the court. Any court that would say that the president or his representatives, like Secretary of the Treasury, Secretary of State, whatever, doesn't have the right to go over their books and make sure everything's honest. I mean, how can you have a country? You can't have anything that way. You can't have a business that way. You can't have a country that way. Hey, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Mark Vogel will be at the White House tonight at about 10 o'clock. If you want to come over, you can say hello to him.
Did you guys give anything in return?
Not much. No, they were very nice. We were treated very nicely by Russia, actually.
Yeah,
I hope that's the beginning of a relationship where we can end that war and millions of people can stop being killed. They've lost millions of people. They lost, and I'm interested primarily from the standpoint of death. We're losing all those soldiers. And they're not American soldiers, they're Ukrainian and Russian soldiers. But you're probably talking about a
he
million
did.
and a half.
He did kiss
I
Putin's
think we've
ring.
got to bring that one to an end. Okay? Thank you. Thank you very much.
But that's really what I wanted to do, is just go over this press conference, because again, in my opinion, I feel that they are trying to pull the federal government away from the states and get away with all the money that the states have put into the federal government. So they won't have to actually give anything back. They won't just run off with the money. In my opinion, Elon Musk is also going to be part of that, transferring money to wherever, so that he can live high off the hog, as they say. But yes, there are some tax cuts that are coming. Now, Congress is going to be getting ready to argue over those tax cuts because they have to approve that. But there are a lot of Republicans that have been voting for all of his picks, and right now there's still a couple of picks that haven't gotten finished with their hearings. But there's going to be some debates coming up here for those tax cuts and some other stuff that he's trying to push through. So we're going to be seeing a lot of stuff going on, and some of that stuff is going to get through, just because there's Republicans that don't have a spine, and they'll vote for anything that he says without actually looking at it. But this is not nothing new to politics. That's a kind of like a bipartisan problem, in my opinion. But at the end of the day, this is not the time that everybody needs to be aware of what's going on right now. This is not normal. We shouldn't be looking at this. Congress shouldn't be looking at this as if this is a normal thing. You can't just break laws and then start talking about people who are breaking laws. Convicted felon sitting there in office talking about criminals. That's wild. That is wild. So the next election, the Democrats, that's all they're talking about, is the next election in 2 years, which that is important. But as of right now, there's going to be blowback from these tariffs, because he's still going to implement the tariffs. So there's going to be blowback from that, and the proletariat is going to have to foot the bill for that, in addition to the higher prices. So what happens is, a lot of times, remember during COVID when they had, everything kind of went up because there was a chain supply. The trucks couldn't get where they needed to go, so they couldn't deliver food the way they needed to deliver food. So all the prices went up. But in some reports, some grocery stores admitted that they just raised prices just to raise them, even though they didn't have a shortage, even though there was nothing wrong with their supply chain. And so you're going to have the same thing again when this blowback comes from these tariffs. People are just going to raise prices just because they can get away with it. All right, so that's the end of the press conference. I am going to see you guys tomorrow. We're going to go over some more of the information that Trump is doing, but I also wanted to kind of go over, we're going to look at some of what the Republicans are talking about with this national divorce and Project 2025 and how that ties together, and some of the things that they've already implemented. We'll go over that tomorrow, but I want y'all to see how they've been talking about doing what he's already been doing, and it's already in the Project 2025, but also in Congress. There's MAGA people in Congress, and that's what all those filibusters was about in the last couple of years with the Republicans, and they've been holding up Congress and holding up legislation, all because of this. But that's so important that we understand what the real plan is they're trying to, seize power of the federal government and pull away from the states. That's one of their plans. All right. Did anybody have any questions? Oh, you guys are lit liquors. Why are y'all so trolly? Republicans are talking about the Republicans with power are. The rest of y'all are just followers. The Republicans with power are talking about Project 2025. I don't know if you've listened to a congressional hearing about Project 2025, but they are talking about it in Congress. That's wild that y'all haven't heard about it. It's on the congressional record. Project 2025. Safety helmets and strap on your seatbelts. Listen, one thing about me is I'm not finna just sit here. That's one thing. It ain't finna just be you do whatever you want and I'm gonna just sit here and just do these things. Nope. There's things that we can do. Definitely things that we can do. And we'll get to that too. But we do need to know exactly what it is. We need to lay things out on the table to see what it is that they're actively trying to do. And then we can get to the response. All right. Okay, well, I will see you guys tomorrow around 8 Mountain Standard Time. Okay? See you guys later. Bye.